Good morning, John.
Good morning, Jenny. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Let's hope Sheila doesn't jump up on me again and want to drink my coffee.
I see you have your morning cup of coffee. I have this
Morning.
morning mug. Some days are more tumbly than others.
I have my cup here. And on the bottom, after I drink it, it says, "Good morning, beautiful." So good morning to all those beautiful people out there that are watching us.
Good morning to all of those beautiful people that are watching. But I'm a little concerned for Allan Smith and his family. I believe he's been going through tumbly days all through the holidays into the new year, and he has his only chance really for justice coming up. And I'm a little concerned because of these documents that we have right here.
Right.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, and I really hope you get the word out for people to show up at court on February 17th at 9 a.m. to witness and make sure that the state follows the law and does the right thing.
That would be in Henderson County, North Carolina, on the 17th, which is a Thursday, on my calendar. We always show up to these things to support, certainly Allan and others.
Well, for sure. And we have to make sure that other people's rights get upheld, because it's very obvious if you go and look at the transparent documentation from the government that the government's not protecting people's rights. And there's a maximum of law that says he who does not exercise his rights has none. And an attorney cannot exercise your rights on your behalf contrary to the common belief, because that's still not you exercising your rights.
Exactly.
So you're of the understanding that Allan's been trying to contact Tamara, the opposing counsel.
And those that have been watching the videos.
Hey, Allan's trying to call in right now.
Okay. Hey.
Hey, Allan.
What's up?
Hey, Allan. Good morning. It's Joni.
How are you?
Hi, we're doing good. We're talking about you.
Oh, yeah. I could go one of two ways.
Well, we're on a video conference call talking about our concerns about how Tamara's not contacting you back with your emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's not at all responding to any of the emails that you have sent her?
No. No, so far we're up to 3. This next one will be 4.
And Allan, just for those that are listening in shortly, we know that you were denied being able to have your children. How long was it before you saw your daughter?
6 weeks. Just over 6 weeks.
And your son?
It was 4 weeks before I got him for a weekend, and 2 more weeks after that.
And now in the background, we can hear, "Hi, Daddy." So we're so happy that this weekend you do have both of your children. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
2 weekends in a row.
Yes.
Which really kind of makes the argument that you're so threatening and so awful that she had to keep them away from you kind of null and void, huh?
You would think, especially being how, part of the time was through Christmas.
Yes.
And New Year's.
Yeah. I mean, Christmas is a biggie.
Well, and prior to that, your grandpa passed away.
Yeah, about a month and a half before this.
And that was a sad time for your family.
That was when they started bringing the vexatious litigations.
Exactly. At one of the most horrible times when you had a death in the family. And they have not
the day after he passed away.
And they, if I remember correctly, they were trying to throw you in jail the day before your family was going to hold the memorial service.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I think that could be considered heartless.
Yeah, you would think,
Mhm.
which, you know, you have to have a heart first for it to be heartless.
I guess that is kind of a prerequisite.
Mhm.
Before you go, because we don't wish to take away time from your family, but we're really glad that you called in at this real opportune time where we're having this conversation, recording in the studio. But I kind of opened up with a idea of, you know, if you're not standing up for your rights, then you don't have any. And because you had multiple attorneys before you started standing up for your own rights, I just wondered what you thought about that.
Well, the attorneys surely didn't help anything, that's for sure.
Did they uphold your rights? Did they make sure that your rights were upheld
Not at all.
while they were handling your case?
No. Not at all.
So, and since you've gotten rid of them, it kind of appears that no judicial officer has upheld your rights.
Well, not really, but things are moving a lot better.
And at least they're not violating them, and hopefully they won't violate them when you go in on the 17th.
Well, that's what we definitely hope for. But, I mean, honestly, since I got rid of the attorney, things are moving a lot faster. You know,
well, there's no
tried for-
billable hours.
well, that's true. But, you know, we tried for 2 years to have one hearing, and within a matter of months after finding the attorney, finally, you know, moved before the court.
Well, let's not forget the multiple calls to DSS and them doing investigations on you during this time.
In the past year, I think there have been 7.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them substantiated?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they just get more ludicrous and more ludicrous.
Very much.
Yeah, an invasion of your privacy, an invasion of your time with your children. It's really is horrendous. One more thing I'd like to bring up, and that is you have an incredible family, Allan. You have a wonderful support system, mom and dad, and in particular, I know this has really impacted your mom. Grandma has not been able to see the grandchildren. In how long?
6 weeks.
In 6 weeks.
Yeah, she went for, she could give you the exact number, about 7 months prior
To not seeing them.
to not seeing them, prior to rescinding my consent of that, you know, coerced consent order. She went about 7 months without seeing them.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that you brought that up, because I made a video, one of my last videos, I think, and I said that Tamara and Madison had threatened you. And afterwards, we talked about it, and you said that it wasn't Tamara, it was just Madison.
Well, I mean, supposedly the 3 of them, Madison, Tamara, and Emily Cowan, were in communication. You know, whether you want to call it ex parte or a star chamber court, they were discussing amongst themselves, because I had actually tried to go to the courthouse that morning and Madison told me not to. And they decided.
And that's really concerning to me, because I'm looking at this disciplinary action from the State Bar of North Carolina that's disciplining Tamara Lee for having an ex parte communication about consent child custody orders, and they made her overturn.
Yes. Yes, they did. But
they made her overturn this those orders, those consent orders, and it seems like you have a very similar case going on here within a year of them issuing this disciplinary action, which they only fined her $350. A lot of people get ticketed more than that for traffic offenses. And not only is she appearing to have these ex parte communications, but also it talks about how she wouldn't communicate with the other side, just like she's not communicating with you.
Exactly. It would appear that maybe, this is just my opinion, that when she's not getting her way, she's not going to communicate.
Well,
But yeah, that is correct. I mean, her and Madison and Emily Cowan supposedly made the decision that if I didn't forfeit the kids during my parental time, Emily Cowan would sign an order to send law enforcement to remove them by force if necessary.
Well, and I mean, of course, we can't stop how Tamara Lee is going to act and the type of morals she's going to have when she's practicing her profession. But it seems to me like the state's supposed to be there to stop her from doing these things to the people when she's getting this far out of line, having the same patterns, being disciplined for it, and then it just happens again.
Yeah, it really seems to be a pattern over and over. Like you said, it was just barely a year when she basically done the exact same thing to me.
It was censored by the state bar.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for calling in, and please go enjoy your time with your little ones. I know that you haven't had as much time to see them in the past 2 months as you should have, and hopefully we get this turned around for you on the 17th.
We hope so. It's looking pretty good.
Yep,
That's for
17th
sure.
on Thursday.
At 9 a.m. at Henderson County.
Yes, we're encouraging everyone who is hearing this, the sound of our voice, the sound of your voice, to show up on the 17th, Henderson County, North Carolina, 9 a.m. roll call. Be there, be in support of this wonderful family. You may know Allan through church, through the community, him and his family, through their business. So we encourage you to show up and be very supportive and be able to see how the judicial officer is going to handle this on the 17th.
Well, I know myself and the children will be greatly appreciative of any support.
Yes.
And we're greatly appreciative of y'all, too.
Well, we're appreciative that you're standing up and fighting for our rights, so that maybe my young man in training now, he's graduating, I remember that. So, but maybe he'll have rights when he turns 18.
That's our goal.
Well, so, you
enjoy your time with the children.
We will. We've had a big day so far today, and it ain't slowing down yet.
Good. Happy to hear
time
that.
to catch up on.
For sure, and I know you always have some good things and good activities planned, so enjoy them, and we'll talk soon.
All right, y'all have a good day. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. So that was interesting. He called at just the right opportune time, huh?
I'm so glad he did. I know. That was awesome. So, John, how about if we kind of move into a little bit more of what is still going on and what's happened in this community, Hendersonville, Polk, Transylvania County, with that whole issue with Greg Newman? Can we do an update on that for those that are listening? Because that particular case affects everything and everyone, not only in these three counties, in Buncombe County and beyond.
Yes, I mean, this is one of the things that's concerning, is that Tamara Lee got the disciplinary action
About a year ago.
About a year ago, and also a little over a year ago, Greg Newman got a disciplinary action from the State Bar Association, which is a purely administrative court, no law to it at all, and it suspended his suspension, which means that it really didn't do anything. He can still practice law. He got to keep his job as the district attorney. This is incredibly disheartening because a lot of people were still so upset that there was a court of law held and he was removed. And I would just like to go over some of those things
Yeah, let's do that. Mhm.
that I found pretty interesting. And the first thing that I'm going to go over, and this is his removal order. And paragraph 6, it says, a proceeding to remove a district attorney is neither a civil suit nor a criminal prosecution. It is an inquiry, and thus the rules of civil and criminal procedure do not apply. Okay, so in the removal of a public officer, the rules of criminal and civil procedure do not apply. Do not apply at all. And then in paragraph 11, and it has all of the supporting case law to support what they're finding here, a proceeding resulting in the removal of an individual from public office must accord the individual due process of law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredibly important because when they're moving under criminal or civil procedure, it means that you are not getting due process of law. You are getting due process of the administration they have made up to take away your rights. Mm-hmm. It's really just that simple, and they put it in their own words. They have to do this because they're establishing what jurisdiction this court is moving under. And I think that's really, really important because anybody who's read any constitution knows that you have the right to due process of law.
Yes.
If anybody finds somewhere in a constitution where you have the right to due process of administration, I personally would love to see it. So please send that to me. Valerie Owenby wished to be in court to testify against James Sapp, who raped her from the time she was 5 years old until she was 12 for 7 years. Mm-hmm. She was not afforded her right to voice her victim impact statement before the court. She was not afforded her right to have her voice heard before the court. Her father, Mr. Owenby, decides that the courts are a kangaroo system. Or kangaroo court, which basically means that there's no justice, there's no righteousness to be found, they just do whatever they wish, they're their own tribunal, and they don't care about anybody else.
Now, just to bring a little bit of background into this, Valerie Owenby was brave enough, it's a brave young woman, to come forth and finally say what James Sapp was doing to her. And the interesting thing is, it was also done in order to protect her sister. So she's an incredibly brave young woman. And they went to the district attorney, which is Greg Newman.
Greg Newman.
And the interesting thing is, this young woman at a very young age, as a little girl, was able to prove certain areas on the body of James Sapp, and then they had investigated and took the physical evidence to find out and see certain areas on his body that proved that Valerie Owenby knew intimately, unfortunately, some of the areas on his body that she was able to prove that he was the one who had raped and molested her for all that time. And so when that evidence was also not only given to Greg Newman, his office, and they were able to prove it through photographs, and their job was to inform Valerie and her mom and dad, because they wanted to make sure that they were in court and they were able to read the victim impact statement and give any other comments or anything they wanted to say to the court or to James Sapp. And they were denied that ability to do that. And that's why this is so horrendous.
It is absolutely horrendous. And they're denied that ability for the same reason you would be, is because at this point, people haven't exercised their rights in so long. The government, the state knows that nobody knows how to exercise their rights. So when somebody does know how to exercise their rights, like Valerie Owenby, and goes down to the magistrates and tries to swear out a warrant, they cannot take her first-hand testimony of knowledge of the facts but they can accept police officers going in there with nothing but hearsay and arresting over frivolous actions and made up pretended offenses and persecuting people, while the people they should be prosecuting, they allow to walk free.
Hey, John, let me just give a little example of this for those that are listening to get a better picture. So someone went into the magistrate's office and said that I threatened to kill them, me. And I had not seen this person in maybe close to a year, haven't even communicated with this person. Yet I was arrested. And so when we look at the correlation here, Valerie Owenby was molested, was raped by James Sapp. And the district attorney, Greg Newman, and his office, and the police, I believe, and the sheriff, they had all this information. And yet they denied Valerie the ability to go and arrest James Sapp for what he did to her.
Well, and just to add insult to injury, talking about your arrest, Allan, who just called, went to the court at least 3 times to have processes issued for Katie keeping the children, because it's parental kidnapping in North Carolina. They wouldn't do anything. But as soon as Katie goes down there on Christmas Eve to try and get a protection order to say that he's too violent and drives drunk with them all the time and make up a bunch of stuff, well, they just let her walk right through and do whatever she wishes to do. And now he has to go answer for that on February 10th. But we believe that they're going to drop it because they have absolutely no case, and there are way too many state officers subpoenaed to be a witness. But getting back to what you were talking about, Joni, right here, it's paragraph 70, where it talks about Judge Athena Brooks wrote on the judgment that the state said victim had been advised of plea and did not want to be heard. This notation was made on the judgment by Judge Athena Brooks in her own handwriting. Okay, in her own handwriting. And Judge Athena Brooks noted that the state said the victim had been advised of the plea and did not wish to be heard. Okay, right here, paragraph 79. Judge Athena Brooks would not have accepted the plea on that date if she had been advised that the victim wanted to be heard. She would not have accepted that plea, and she would not have accepted that plea because it violates the law. Yet, even though the State Bar Association knows that the plea was unlawful and illegitimate, even though the judges know that the plea was unlawful and illegitimate, even though the district attorney's office knows that the plea was unlawful and illegitimate, not only will they not issue a warrant for Valerie, who has firsthand information and firsthand knowledge of the facts of the crime and has the right to access court, and her right to be heard in court was denied, but they won't even go back and correct the violation of law that happened on her behalf. And she can't hire an attorney to do this process because only the district attorney's office can prosecute criminal actions. So she cannot go and hire an attorney to prosecute on her behalf because we just don't care about girls getting raped enough to allow them the right, when they are so brave, to stand up in court, face the person who absolutely demolished their life, look them in the eye, and say, you did this to me, and you're about to pay.
Let's not forget about some other key players here, because what came out in the hearing when the state bar, as well as what happened in Hendersonville when they brought Greg Newman to court about this, what came out during the hearings was Greg Newman said James Sapp happened to be in the courthouse that day. His attorney, Chris Stepp, happened to be in the courthouse that day. And they made this plea deal where they went to Greg Newman, who, again, happened to be in the courtroom, in the courthouse. And then Athena Brooks Judge Athena Brooks happened to be in that day, and they just happened to do this plea deal, totally sideswiping and leaving out of the picture Valerie OMB and her family, her mother and her father. And that is another thing that's so horrendous, where they denied her the ability to be able to face her accuser and to be able to say in court what she wished to say.
And let's not forget that the Bar Association found that Greg Newman testified that when he responded to them falsely, he did so based on memory and did not conduct any research before he made those statements, the false statements to the Bar Association. And then in the very next paragraph, paragraph 101, Newman admitted that he did not address the initial inquiry by the state bar thoroughly. In particular, Newman admitted that he did not look at the file in the SAP case before submitting his response to the state bar. They found that he had absolutely no remorse for what he did, and he was quoted as saying he would do it again. And he did when he threatened to not prosecute another rape case that came down from Buncombe County, which incidentally hired him immediately after he was removed from office.
So he was removed from office as district attorney in Hendersonville, Polk County, and Transylvania County. And he was hired in Buncombe County. They did not remove his license to practice. So as an attorney, he's practicing in Buncombe County, but he is no longer, praise God, no longer in office of being a district attorney. So that is still a horrendous thing that happened, where they did not remove and take away his license to practice on other people.
Or even activate the suspension after he was removed from office. Exactly. He immediately walked right up to Buncombe County and got a job, almost like it was a plan.
So I encourage people to go on the website with the State Bar and put in Greg Newman's name and go ahead and listen to and read the transcripts, because I've had many people in this community and elsewhere come up to me and tell me various things of what a great guy he is, and they don't believe it. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing more and more of these videos, and as well as others, is to be able to help people to do your own due diligence and do your own research. You don't have to believe what we're saying. Be Berean and go ahead and do your own research. And we have all the documents and all the paperwork. We attend the court hearings. And so we do know what we're talking about now, and the further action that we will be taking. We will keep you informed about that.
And speaking about that, the final paragraph I wish to read from the Greg Newman removal case is 119. In connection with the SAP case, Newman committed 3 separate acts, each of which constitutes an independent ground for removal from the office of district attorney. He did 3 separate things that in law he cannot do as a district attorney. And when you do something like that, when you are executing duties and functions of the state and you violate the law, you cease to have the state's person to exercise those duties and functions with, which basically means that he was impersonating a district attorney ever since the Valerie OMB case happened, which was really, really close to his appointment as district attorney.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly why the state of North Carolina wishes to bury this and cover it up, is because if he gets criminally prosecuted, then there are going to be a lot of defense attorneys who have clients sitting in prison that are going to challenge the fact that he could not act as a district attorney after he had broken the law the way that he did against Valerie OMB. And all of this should show you that the state is not protecting your rights And if you wish to make sure your rights are protected for your children and your grandchildren, then it's on you to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to do it for you. And if they didn't prove it with Greg Newman's case, they're proving it again with Tamara Lee's case and what they're doing to Allan, breaking apart the family, making it to where either the children or the grandma can go to church. They all can't go to church together.
That's right. That's right.
So, any closing thoughts?
Well, I'd like to say, please don't wait until something like this happens to you or your grandchildren or your niece or your nephew or your cousin or your neighbor or someone else at church or in the community or someone you know. We are saying it's now time to get involved. It's now time. Just because it didn't happen to you, it doesn't mean it won't happen to you. We're saying it's time for you to get involved. It's time for you to show up and be supportive. It's time for you to actually get actively involved in keeping track of the judicial officers the way we do that, and the various attorneys in town, and what they are or not doing, what the magistrates are or are not doing. Because every time someone is denied access to true law and their rights are violated, your rights are violated. And don't wait until that happens to you. Let's keep them accountable. Let's keep them on track. Let's keep exposing things that need to be exposed. Let's replace people that need to be replaced. Your voice is so powerful. And we encourage you to use that voice, use pen and ink, and continue to contact us. And we will respond to every text, every email on what the next step is.
Okay, and with that, one thing that I wish to say in closing that you brought up a moment ago, and I'm going to go back to, but all of the naysayers who say that they know Greg Newman and what we're saying is completely false, and they know he wouldn't do any of these things, the only thing we're really talking about are facts upon the record of administrative courts. That's it. That's all we're talking about. And if we are lying, if we are defaming somebody's character, if we are slanderous, if we are libel, come sue me. It's on me. And when those people don't come sue me, it's really, really hard for you to keep saying that none of this is true. It's really, really difficult. And as far as waiting for something like this to happen to you before you get involved, if you wait for something like this to happen to you, nobody's going to be left to help stand up with you. Because people like me are getting targeted by the government. And churches are being targeted by the government. And they're going to say anybody who believes that they have freedoms or rights is a right-wing extremist, and they got to lock them up. They got to take care of them. They got to take care of political dissent. That's how tyrannical governments function and operate every single time. So if you could just help us prevent that tyrannical dissent by showing up on the 17th at 9 a.m. for Allan to make sure that his rights and justice get upheld and that the courts do the right thing, we would appreciate to have you, to have everybody who's listening to our voice, who's free that day, who's listening to the voice of the Creator in their heart and know the law He places there. And even if you don't know it yet, if you just know that the law the state is giving is wrong and not law at all and goes against the law of our Father, please show up. Let's learn together.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you for this early morning.
Yeah.
For this early morning studio session, and thank you for coming down for Jacob's birthday and his graduation for being a young man in training. And I hope your meetings go well this week, and we'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon.